Sam, I was wanting to ask you about the tight ends. I know in fall camp that was maybe a big question mark. How do you feel like those guys have done? And maybe you could just say something about each guy. How you think they've done?
I think they're doing a really good job. We actually on our good tape um, yesterday, we actually showed Hudson, and he took a couple of really nice shots from the guys at A&M and gave the ball to the official, got up, went to his alignment and assignment, and went on about his business. That's a redshirt freshman, and he's getting tougher. He's getting better. Blake Kern, I think, has done a nice job as well. Caught a very important pass down to about the 1 or 2 yard line against A&M, doing a better job blocking. Both of them have, obviously, we can improve, and they know it, but they're working awful hard. I've been very happy with those two guys. Obviously, Blake Kern is probably 3 on the depth chart. Or excuse me, Blaine Toll is probably 3 on the depth chart right now. Not getting him quite as much reps as we anticipated, but he's doing a nice job on special teams.
Hutch?
Yeah, Sam, I was wondering how have you adjusted the practice schedule this week with the players being off on Tuesday for the election?
Well, we came in, we got home nice and early at 2:30 in the morning, but look on the bright side, we gained an hour. And so we were obviously much fresher than we would have been if we lost an hour. And we came right back up here as a coaching staff, graded the tape, met, did everything that we normally do, except we practiced last night. So we started our meetings at 4:30 and we practiced, which would we call it a Monday practice. We practiced last night. It went very well. We were ready for that practice because in our off week, we started with Tennessee. We wanted to have that practice ready to go because we knew they weren't going to play. They were off. So we had all the film that they have shown this year. And we had we did not put pads on last night. I didn't want to do it back to back, but we'll be full pads today and Wednesday. And after the day we get past today, we'll go back to, that will be off tomorrow, but Wednesday will be Wednesday, Thursday will be Thursday, Friday, and so forth.
Tom?
Hey, Sam, I had a couple things I wanted to ask. First, an overview of Tennessee, just kind of a scouting report on those guys. Second, your relationship with Jim Chaney, when it started, why did y'all hit it off, and how often y'all communicate these days?
Well, Jim and I were both – I actually signed as well, but Jim Chaney is a Central Missouri State mule, and I signed with Central Missouri State too. We both graduated – he looks much older than I do, but we both graduated the same year in high school. And so I've known him, we both recruited St. Louis at different times, and we'd get together and go out and obviously go eat. So I got to know him, and I went to the convention. We'd gotten fired at North Carolina, and I saw him. I was going into the restroom. He's coming out, and he said, "Hey, I want to talk to you." Said, "Hey, we're going to lose our line coach. You'd like to come work with me at Tennessee?" I did. Enjoyed it. At the end of that year, we got fired. Jim and I were fortunate enough to come to the University of Arkansas, and we spent, I think, 2 years together. Jim left, went to Pittsburgh. Then when I got the job at Georgia, he and I reunited there at Georgia, and he was there three of my 4 years at Georgia, and then he left and went to Tennessee. I coached at Tennessee, obviously, and had a wonderful year that year I was at Tennessee. As far as they go, offensively, they have a very talented offensive line, a huge offensive line. They have a really good back in Gray. Actually, they have 2 with him and Chandler. And Garantino is as a veteran guy. He's played in 39 games there at Tennessee, so a veteran quarterback. Palmer is one of their elite receivers that they have, along with Jones and Keaton. On defense, they're an SEC-looking defense. They're big, their front three. They're in a 3 or 4 man line, but their front three with Butler, Solomon, and Bumpus. Bumpus are very talented kids that can run. I think the key to their defense is Henry To'o, and he's leading their team in tackles, but he's as good a linebacker is in the SEC and probably the nation. In the back end, they're very physical. They can cover. This is a really good football team that looks like an SEC football team, and Coach Pruitt and those guys have done an outstanding job getting them to this point. Early in the year, they were on an 8-game winning streak, counting 6 from last year. And they ran into Georgia and Alabama and Kentucky and really Georgia and Alabama. Those are elite teams. And certainly Kentucky's one of the elite teams of the SEC as well.
Nate?
Yeah, Sam, as far as the depth in the secondary, since you've had a couple of opt-outs and you had the game with Catalan having to sit, just how do you feel it's come through for you so far?
Well, I think they've done a really good job. Obviously losing Catalan the other night, it showed. We had certainly practiced without him and those things of that nature, but he's probably as important as anybody we have on the defense. And he had been playing really well, and just unfortunate situation that he wasn't able to play in the rest of the second quarter and the second half. But he's very valuable back there. We learned a lesson there about, have another guy in his position ready to go. Slusher was a guy that we felt like could do that. Blair was a guy, but of course Slush was ankle. He had an ankle injury that we didn't know for sure if he was going to be able to play or not going into the game. So we're pretty healthy right now, and so I think we're going to be okay there.
Trey Biddy?
Yeah, Coach, I was wondering if anything jumped out to you on film, rewatching the game that maybe you thought was different when you were watching it live.
Trey, we didn't tackle well. Third down, we had some MAs, some missed assignments on some coverages. We got baited a couple of times in the deep third at corner that, we saw on tape. I did think that our D-line played better than what I was thinking during the game. I thought that and I thought Julius Coates had his best game, and of course John Marshall's a guy that we certainly can count on. But as the game wore on, I think our tackling was worse. We missed too many tackles. On offense, obviously we left too many points out there. We're not a team. We have to win first down. If we get behind the sticks, we have a hard time of converting first downs at that point. And certainly our red zone offense was not up to standard, and we've got to score 7 instead of attempting 3 when we get down close and when we get in field goal range.
Nikki?
Coach, a lot of people are commenting about how Hudson Henry looks like he's coming into his own and starting to really take over the role. What have you thought of his performances?
I thought he had his best performance Saturday, and I'm just talking about a physicality, toughness standpoint. Like I said earlier, he took a couple of nice shots, the best they could give him, and got the ball official, got lined up, got ready to play, was not shaken, he wasn't shook. I don't know which way you're supposed to say that, but I do know this, that, earlier in the year, that would have affected him. So he's maturing, he's growing, he understands, and he's a weapon. He's really perfect for our offense.
Scotty?
Hey, Coach, I'm curious if you could expound on what you see from Tennessee's pass defense, and also Felipe's been really good on the road, but what can you do to, maybe get him into a little bit more of a rhythm at home?
Well, the first game out of I think we played Georgia at home, which, they certainly have as good a defense as there is in the country. And then the second game against Ole Miss, I think he probably played pretty well. Second home game. We've been on the road 3 times and home twice. So I'm not really concerned about getting him going or anything like that. I think he's played good ball for us.
Dudley?
Coach, obviously not being able to go see recruits is a big thing. That's been a challenge. But what have been some of the other challenges during this time, during the season, that have made recruiting a little tougher, a little different?
We have several guys that are committed to us. We haven't had many, in the last couple of months. We talked about it in our staff meeting, and right now everything's kind of on hold. I think a lot of the kids are waiting to see, if there's going to be official type visits in January. We have not, from what I understand, we haven't got that ruling yet, and so I still think there's going to be a whole bunch of them sign early, but there's that last group of guys that are going, I don't want to sign someplace I've never been to. And heck, I don't blame them. But we're in a little bit of a holding pattern, it seems like to me, where we're trying to attack as a 22 class. We've got a pretty good number in the 19 or in the 21 class, but we're trying to go after the 22 class, particularly in the state of Arkansas.
Is there a way to kind of get to the kids the atmosphere? Obviously can't come to the games, but how are you trying to get that across?
Well, we're sending out all kinds of stuff all the time, trying to talk about, what we've done and who we have and awards they're getting and all this kind of stuff. But, even the atmosphere is not the atmosphere, unless you go to A&M, and then you got a pretty good atmosphere, down there. But it's hard to sell right now, to be honest with you. And they can't come and all those things, hopefully they watch it on TV and get a feeling about who we are. Right now we're trying to sell ourselves and is our program better than what it has been and all those things. And that's up to the individual on what you think about that. But we're trying to head in the right direction and play good football to give them a reason to come to Arkansas.
Thanks, Coach.
Jordan?
Hey, Coach, a couple weeks ago you mentioned getting off to that fast start meant doing things a little differently in pregame warmups or even during the week. What are some of those things that y'all have done differently that helped make that fast start a success on Saturday?
Well, everything, the first things we do at practice, regardless of whatever it may be, we have really, really emphasized, all right, so we're starting. We're going to start on Saturday. It was one of our team goals to start fast. That did not necessarily just mean to the offense. Our defense got them off the field, and we went down and scored immediately. So, it's like if you're boxing, and I don't know much about boxing, been in a few fights in my day, but I know you probably want to throw the first punch, or you ain't got to show a guy how tough you are and take a few shots. You probably ought to throw the first punch, and we talked about that. And I don't know if we did or not, but I do know that was our mentality going into the game. And we have fastball starts every day. We, not every day, but on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we emphasize our individual because it's the beginning. We emphasize our ball security because it's the beginning of practice. We emphasize stretch because it's the beginning of practice. But what we've done in pregame is we've gone faster. We haven't changed it, but it's a more physical pregame than what we've done. And so we're going to try the same thing, Jordan, and see if it works this week.
Troy.
Yeah, hey coach. It seemed like Rakeem had one of his better games against Texas A&M. I know he's been banged up this year, but I'm curious how you think he's doing so far, kind of coming after injury, and if he's back to full potential.
Troy, did you say Rakeem?
Yeah, I did. Sorry.
Yeah, I think he did. I mean, there's a lot of holes there too. Our offensive line did a nice job, and Traylon Smith came in and he ran hard. I think Rakeem's just going to get better and better each week. I do. He's healthy now. He knows that he can make more people miss, in open space, and I think he's going to concentrate on some of that and get better. I loved his attitude and how hard he ran, and I think he'll even get better now that I believe that he's healthy.
Tom.
You obviously know the concepts or the philosophy of a Jim Chaney offense. What you see from Tennessee this season, does that kind of fall in line with what you know, or are they doing some different stuff too?
Well, Jim's an offensive line coach. I mean, Jim taught me a lot about offensive line play. And so, he wants to run the football, and he believes, I don't want to speak for him, but I've been with him 3 schools, he believes that running the football and physical play is how you win in the SEC. And so as you look at their team now, they built around that offensive line, big, physical, 5-star offensive lineman. And he's turning around and handing the football off. And if you're not able to stop him, he'll never throw a pass. I mean, he just won't. He's trying to win the game. He's trying to beat you up, and that's what he's been every place I've ever been with him. And I really don't see any difference in his philosophy watching all their games this season.
Sam, I had a couple of questions. One, Dorian, how did he handle his snaps that he got this past weekend? Is he going to continue kind of getting more snaps moving forward? And then how did Bumper do in his first game back?
Andrew, I don't, Dorian, I'm not going to tell you that I talked to him last night and he was very, very happy that he played. I'm not going to tell you that I felt like he was 100% ready to play, but when are you in game 5, but I'm glad that he was glad that he played, because I think it gave him some confidence, and I think it'll help him for this week. Certainly, we're going to watch him today. We did yesterday, and of course on Wednesday to see where he is physically. But I was glad he played. Excuse me. I don't think he played, like he was full speed, but I was glad he got the opportunity to play. And then you asked me about somebody else.
Bumper, how did he do his first game back?
Oh, Bumper?
Yeah.
Bump. I thought he flew around to the ball. We got to give him a little deeper in some coverages at times. We bid a little bit up on some play actions and things of that nature, but he came out of the game well, and I was glad to have him back. He's a good football player, great kid, and we need guys like that on our football team, and we need Bumper Pool, and we're glad he was back.
Got time for a few more. Let me know in the chat, Bob.
Hey, Sam, I wanted to ask you about Jim Chaney again. So how often do you guys talk? When was the last time you talked, and do you cut off, communication when you're playing? And you didn't go to Central Missouri, did you? Did Pittsburgh State stole your? Then how did you and Jim connect? Were you on a recruiting trip together? How'd you guys meet?
I talk to Jim about once a week, and have not spoke with him this week, but not that it matters. I mean, He's not going to tell me anything. I'm not certainly not telling him anything. You know, I love the guy. He's a dear friend of mine. You know, he's from Holden, Missouri, and I'm from Grove, Oklahoma, and I signed with the Mules, but they were NCAA Division II, and Pittsburgh State was NAIA Division I, and so I could get out of my signing deal or whatever. Honestly, Warrensburg, Missouri was too far from home for me. So was Pittsburgh State. It was 70 miles from my house, but I decided to go ahead and go anyway. And you know, in the coaching profession, you just meet people that you like. And I met him in recruiting. You know, he was recruiting, I was recruiting. He was at Purdue at the time. And we had both small town kids, and we had a lot of common interests. And I respected him deeply as a coach and as a man. And so we went out and had a good time and got to know each other better. And that's when it started. And then I was very fortunate that he recommended that Coach Dooley hire me at Tennessee, because, you know, I didn't have a job, and Tennessee's a really good place, and was able to do that. And then, of course, come to Arkansas, which certainly was beneficial to me as you look at me now.
Terry?
You're muted, Terry.
I'm sorry. The other night, Felipe seemed to be holding the ball just a little bit long. Is it a matter of him just waiting on receivers, or just trying to make a play, trying extra, or what's kind of going on there, I guess?
Well, I think he's holding the ball a little bit too long. And, you know, he's waiting on his receivers. You know, I don't mind him. You know, there's situations where you certainly don't want to take a sack, but I'm more concerned about him taking hits, you know. And anytime a quarterback's holding the ball, that means one good thing, the protection's pretty good, and another bad thing, we're not getting open. And so, you know, we got to keep the protection being pretty solid, and we've got to get open, and he's got to see his reads probably a little bit faster and get rid of the ball. But I'm going to sit here and say I'm disappointed in the way he's playing, because he's playing pretty good. You know, he's tough, and I'm not going to be too critical about him holding the ball too much, really.
Russell?
Coach, what does Jalen mean to this team as a leader on the defense? And then also, what do you tell him about that hit to where he keeps his physicality? Because obviously that's kind of been setting the tone for the defense in some of the games.
Well, he has. Blair has. Joe has. But he's you know, like I say, he's the most valuable guy we have back there. I mean, he runs it. He's aware of what teams are doing because he watches a tremendous amount of film. So does the whole secondary back there. But he's very, very, very valuable to our football team as a young man and as a player. And so obviously you want to keep those guys on the field as much as you can. But, you know, he's got to he tried to knock a guy out a little bit too much for me. You know, he's going to have to slow down and wrap up a little bit every now and then. He'll miss some tackles that certainly you want him to make, but you don't want to take that physicality away from him, because he'll also kind of knock you out, you know. So we'd like to keep the knockout part and maybe wrap up a little bit more.
Last one, Tom.
Yeah, I had a question for you about Jeremy Pruitt. How much you guys have crossed paths in the past, and also what they're doing defensively. Does that kind of look like it's from the Saban tree when you look at their principles?
Jeremy Pruitt is a really good person. I really like him, and you know, I didn't know him as well. He was leaving Georgia whenever I got there, and but man, what a defense they had when he was there. And you know, obviously I've had some friends work for him, work with him, and they're very complimentary about the way he treats them, but I've had some talks with him over different things, over COVID and different things of that nature, and he's just a really pleasant man, and he's a high school coach as well, so we have some common things in our background, but I'm really happy for him, and they're doing a great job over there, and I have highest respect for him.
That'll wrap us up. Thanks, Coach.